Okay, so thank you for joining us today. This is New Mexico's ECLIPSE program. My name is Lori Pacheco, and I'm the ECLIPSE project director.
Kim
Kim
Gonzalez, and I'm one of the
curriculum coordinators.
And Elizabeth, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I didn't because my name wasn't on the title page, but I'm Elizabeth Cassell, and I'm the parent and community liaison for the Office of Special Education. And Lori and Kimberly are my colleagues.
Great. So we went and had a little bit of fun with our theme since everyone's watching the Wicked movie and can't forget the old school stuff, right? Our Wizard of Oz and was the other one, The Wiz, if you ever watched that one, yeah. So the ECLIPSE team includes Ria Gill, who's our deputy director, myself, Dr. Cassell, and Kimberly. And so just to give a little bit of background of what the ECLIPSE program is here in New Mexico, it is a literacy SPDIG grant. And it's to increase reading proficiency for students with disabilities, kindergarten, first grade, and second grade through structured literacy. So to get to the Emerald City and to accomplish our ECLIPSE application objectives, we have 4 of them. One is to support effective implementation of structured literacy through an evidence-based coaching framework. The second objective is to collaborate with partners and stakeholders throughout the state to support an effective implementation of structured literacy. Our third objective for the grant is to provide leadership learning on effective supporting the implementation of evidence-based coaching. And last but not least, our objective 4 is to provide parents, family members, guardians, with an understanding of what structured literacy practices are, and help train them and to support their students' literacy development outside of the classroom setting and at home. So I'd like to say it's as easy as clicking our ruby slippers, but we know it's not. So our framework and evaluation is for ECLIPSE is, as I mentioned, structured literacy, which includes letters, professional development, and other strategies and tools, practice-based coaching, leading by convening, root cause analysis. We use the Plan, Do, Study, Act. And the 2 new components to the grant activities is using New Mexico's district literacy plans and district 90-day plans, which are both state mandated. And how we go about this, the evaluation portion of it is through observation rubrics and various tracking forms. Surveys not only for our coaches, those that have attended professional development and our parents, but then we also evaluate students' screenings, their progress monitoring throughout the school year, and their iStation assessment, which is also a state mandated assessment. So our grant barriers and hurdles. There were many when we first came on. It'll be a year for me in May. I believe a year for Dr. Cassell in May as well. And I believe Kimberly, you were 7. That's May. Since May as well. Okay, we're all May. We all came in on May. So there was a lot of staff turnover within this past year. I believe there was anywhere from 3 to 4 project directors for the grant. So a lot of activities were not conducted. And there was not as much oversight. One thing that we did as a team together when we first got onto this SPDIG grant was doing a lot of researching, evaluating of former grant implementation, looking at former contractor productivity and their outcomes. But what really struck me the most was doing a deep dive into what literacy initiatives were mandated within the state already, and to see if what was already in place was in line with those initiatives. And what we found is that they were not. The other thing that we had to encounter is realizing that there weren't qualified contractors executing a lot of the activities within our contracts. So we had to do a lot of realigning of our grant activities and our goals. Other barriers are more external, internal but external. Internal in that these bureaus are part of the public education department, and that's our purchasing department and our audit department. It takes a while for our contracts to get completed. In fact, we're still waiting for them to be executed, and we're already in December. The other big thing that occurred here in the state of New Mexico is that our governor mandated, put out an executive order that affected and was specific to the special education division here in New Mexico. The executive order mandated that we become an office of special education, which meant there was a lot of staff turnover. A lot of staff did leave. So it did take time to interview, hire, and onboard staff. But along with that, there's a lot of new initiatives that were built into the executive order that affected our SPDIG grant, that we had to ensure aligned not only with our literacy initiatives, but as well as the executive order. But we are going to defy gravity. So to do that, we're in the process of obtaining qualified contractors. So what we noticed is our previous contracts did not have clear and set staff qualifications and criteria for what was needed for our coaches, professional development. The other thing we noticed was the contract goals were a little obscure, and that obviously affected the outcomes. There were two different coaching models being used, which obviously is not very sustainable. So we realigned and determined and developed quality contract deliverables and outcomes to ensure that they're all reporting the same way, they're all using the same model, that we will have more sustainability and buy-in and better outcomes for the grant in whole. So along with that, we have to, of course, develop new surveys, tracking tools, and other accountability systems within our grant. One thing that we also took a look at when it came to that is to see what other tools were already in place that were being used for other literacy initiatives, to make sure that we were already creating something that was already in place. Because we know that there could be some frustration with districts if they're being asked to ask their literacy proficiency one way, and another program asking for the same information but to report it on a different form or methodology. This way we're realigning and ensuring that the information's the same, and therefore getting more buy-in from our districts because they're not having to do double the work. Prioritizing grant activities due to the barriers and contract delays. So an example is, as I mentioned earlier, it's taking a while for us to get our contracts completed. Right now, it does not look like we'll be able to do any coaching this particular school year, which is, of course, going to be a huge damper for the program. However, by prioritizing some of our grant activities, we're realizing that we'll be able to do a really deep dive into our professional development to get these teacher teams trained with structured literacy, practice-based coaching, our mandated iStation assessment. That way they're all on the same page. So when they start getting coached come the new school year, they'll know what the expectations are and we'll hopefully have better outcomes. The other thing that we're doing is identifying New Mexico districts. And we have here interest in participation because previously districts and schools were selected based off of their reading proficiency scores. So I think some of them felt singled out, felt it was punitive. So there wasn't as much buy-in and participation in the program. This go round, we are doing a survey with them initially and kind of like an application to see what school districts are interested in participating. Along those lines, it's the rebranding of our grant name. So right now it is ECLIPSE, and we are looking at different grant names because the name or word ECLIPSE is not very culturally sensitive here in the state of New Mexico, particularly with a lot of our Native American cultures. So we're wanting to rebrand the name, not only for culturally sensitivity, but also for some of the new grant activities, and so that they see a fresh new name and don't associate it with the punitive grant the way it was initially rolled out. So based on that STAR model, everything's high. Everything's high for us because it almost feels like we're starting from scratch. Though a lot of methodologies and mechanisms have been in place, we're just tweaking them a little bit in some areas, revamping a lot of them, just so that we can get back on track. So I'm going to show you our infographic. And so here we used our New Mexico ZIA with our student in the middle because they are our main focus. The first thing I'm going to go over is the 90-day plan. As I mentioned earlier, it is state mandated. So what the 90-day plan is here in the state of New Mexico, for our LEAs, they have to fill out what's called their ED plan, and it's a short-term measurable target goal for student outcomes. And there is a specific area that includes literacy proficiency. So when they write their 90-day goals, their plan, when we were researching a lot of the district's plans, we noticed that there was an area within it that shows a specific target goal for reading proficiency for students with disabilities. So knowing that, we're going to be looking at what their target goal was last school year, if they accomplished it by the end of the school year last year, and what their new proficiency, reading proficiency goal is for this school year. And that will be part of our initiative, is helping the district get to that target goal. The 90-day plan also spells out their progress monitoring, how they're going to implement their progress monitoring, and it just shows their literacy proficiency for students with disabilities. So again, the 90-day plan is their short-term goal. So moving diagonal from it, the LEA literacy plan is also a state mandated component that our LEAs have to accomplish every year. And so this is where we're trying to realign with our state literacy initiatives. The plan itself has 9 different sections. The bullets that you see here are the ones that speak the most towards our SPDIG ECLIPSE literacy grant. And so it outlines the LEA's literacy data and their needs. It shows the review and analysis of their literacy data, and then what needs they need based off of it. So that's one thing that the ECLIPSE program will help the teacher teams do, is learn how to review and analyze their data. Another component that includes their SMART goals. They use a SMART goal model. It also includes a plan for their structured literacy professional development. Well, that's built into the ECLIPSE program. We provide that not only to our teacher teams, but to administrators and parents. The other part of the plan has an administration literacy monitoring and support component. And within ECLIPSE's contracts, we include that as well. We have that kind of information in there that states that the coaches and professional development are supposed to help our administrators know how to conduct observations, how to monitor, and how to support their teachers when it comes to literacy. And another final component is also the LEA's literacy leadership team. So when the LEAs go and fill out this literacy plan, they have to identify who within their district is part of their literacy leadership team. And so that is also part of the ECLIPSE program in encompassing the NIC to where there is that network of communities. I already forgot what it meant again.
Networked improvement community.
There you go. Thank you, Kim. They will be part of the NIC, which is part of one of ECLIPSE's activities under the approved application. So we will utilize those leadership teams within each district to be part of that NIC. Another component that is included in both ECLIPSE and the literacy plan is the parent engagement. So the way we envision our parent engagement is we're looking at the student, their teacher, and our teachers, both general ed and special ed, are receiving the coaching. And then we're in turn turning around and conducting parent literacy trainings, both in person. The in-person are more involved in where there's actual literacy kits that our trainers will be teaching our parents on how to utilize each component of that kit, modeling how to use it so that when they go home with the kit, they're again using that at home with the student. So the student's not only getting it at school by their teacher being coached, they're also getting it from their parents, legal guardian, and family members on how to do literacy at home. So that's our parent engagement. Down below, you'll see the map of New Mexico. We're a very big state, have a lot of rural areas. And, oh, thank you, Kim. Kind of blew that up. Under the executive order, we had to develop how we were going to implement a lot of the Office of Special Education's initiatives. So this quadrant map was developed. We have five different quadrants, and you'll see some are metro and majority of them are very rural. So it's within these quadrants that we hope to get a contractor in each quadrant to execute the coaching contracts, the professional development, and our parent engagement with various districts within those quadrants. And so that concludes some of the things that we've had to overcome and do to get back on track for our SPDIG ECLIPSE program. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Sure, let's back up to the two different coaching approaches that you had. There was a part of me that's like, well, that's cool. Let's test them both and see which one works better. Or and did you already know that and you knew how to pick between the two of them, which one to go with? How did that go for you?
Based on the outcomes, based on
Okay.
outcomes of what contractor was doing versus the other, um, is how we kind of decided what model we were going to use. It does still look like we'll be using the same one, even though right now we are having a hard time finding the qualified coaches right now, because
Yeah.
though we've presented those qualifications and new contract activities and expectations to our previous contractors, both have bowed out.
Well, yeah. Okay. And would you, so and I noticed on the coaching piece, is that kind of your biggest capacity limiter on this project is the number of qualified coaches that you actually have available to do the coaching. So yeah, so that limits scale and everything. Yep. Yeah, I could see that.
It does.
Yep.
Yeah. So
So nuts and bolts are the coaches are paid through a contract or and is that at the state level or you do that through your school systems?
well, we're actually getting creative this year. Well, it
Yeah.
was done previously is we would do the contract through one of the regional education cooperatives,
Uh-huh.
and then they would subcontract the work out.
Okay. Okay.
And so now we're looking at either doing the same thing or um kind of doing like a request for proposal
Yeah.
to the various RECs, and if they can't come up with anyone qualified enough, um, since it'll be kind of an RFP process, it might be that maybe external um, agencies or companies are able to provide us the level of expertise that we're looking for.
Sure. So then back to family engagement, and I'm sorry if I missed it. Do you guys ever share back your project or program data with families to like ask them, hey, do you think we're hitting the mark here and doing good work? Or do you think that we're missing the mark? What should we do differently?
And yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So, um, in reviewing our contractors and the outcomes and seeing who had better expertise,
Yeah,
in this particular area, we had two different trainers, parent trainers. One we noticed the outcomes weren't very good. The other ones were better. So we're having one of the previous contractors do nothing but the training, and the other contractor, who happens to be our parent advocacy center, um, pitch in with that contractor. They're going to collaborate together, one, to put on all of these in-person trainings throughout the state, but also we're doing 1 hour virtual recorded trainings for quick tips and tools and whatnot for parents
yeah,
online. But it's after these trainings, more so the in-person, that our parent advocacy center, within 30 days of receiving that intensive modeling type of training, is going to contact the families. They're going to do a
uh-huh,
30-day follow-up and ask them, like, how's it going? Are you using the tools that you were provided? If yes, how often? Do you see any changes? If no, why not? Yeah, we're
yeah,
gonna do a follow-up interview per se, um, to get some of that feedback back.
yeah. That's cool. That's great. We don't do that in Minnesota for, what we're working on. Um, but it seems to me like it's such an important thing is kind of this back, I don't know what you want to call it, like reverse validation or back validation of your data, what you're doing, going back to the families and saying, well, here's our really good idea we had, here's what we did, and we think it's looking like this, but what do you guys think? And are we doing it right? Or are we even doing the right thing, you know? So yeah,
Mhm.
very interesting. I'm definitely looking for good ideas and methods for doing that we can maybe move towards up here.
Yeah, and we thought it would be easier for an external, someone that's not the presenter,
Yeah,
doing the follow-up, having an external contractor do it, and who better than our parent advocacy group? They're
right.
already working with our parents, and who knows, some of the information that they're asking, something else might come up that our parent advocacy group can help them with and
Yeah,
share some additional resources and information.
yeah, very good. Those are my questions. That was very, very informative. Thank you so much. Gave me a lot
Oh,
of ideas.
oh, thank you so much.
I think this will be available after today's session too. I think all the presentations, right? I think John will take care of that. Very
Yeah,
good. All right.
great. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Tom, and
thank you.
we'll talk to you later.
Very good. I think we'll head back to the main big room. See you guys later.
All right, bye-bye.